Okay, folks, here we go. SFL.media. This is where you get the good stuff, the podcast, the website, and also the web development. Don't forget that we do a lot of important web development for some big companies out there, and we can do that for you as well. You can contact SFL.media by going to Google and finding us, and you can speak with Patrick, and they will set you up with some really, really good stuff. I am Mr. Josh W. As you can see, I'm with PJZNY. That is Patrick. And we are going to talk about all's well that swalls well. It didn't end good for this fella. He is somebody that you probably are familiar with if you pay attention to the news. He is a congressman, former congressman. We'll get to that. And he was running for governor of California, big state. Got to be pretty important if you're going to run that state. And we're going to go down our own little rabbit hole of what happened to this fella. Real macho guy. I mean, this guy likes the ladies, apparently. Right, Pat?
That surprised me a little bit. I always liked Eric Swalwell. I mean, he was a decent politician, and he seemed to be on the right side of the issues. To see this side of the little nerdy guy blew my mind.
Well, this is where we definitely differ. Obviously, not being a Democrat and really no party affiliation, I would like to say, but I didn't particularly like this guy, just maybe ideologically or whatever. But if you're on the left, yes, he was a darling. He was somebody that was really making his way up the ladder. He had the look. He had the ability to definitely take this all the way to the presidency with at least a chance. He did run on the Democratic primary in the past. He didn't score very high, but he was a young man. And, I think that it's hard to jump from Congress to the presidency, but he definitely had the track. So we're going to get into this is the fall of a politician. And folks, it's the thing about Swalwell that I think is interesting is it's no longer really a surprise. It may be a surprise about him specifically, but I think that we shouldn't be surprised about anything we hear about these folks, especially when it comes to sex and women. I mean, men are horn dogs and men with power and that are fairly decent looking. I think any woman is swiping right on Eric Swalwell. I'm no homo on that, but I don't think this guy's got a problem picking up women. And so he probably
He's married with kids.
And he's married with kids. And that doesn't seem to matter. And it doesn't seem to matter to a lot of married guys or married women. So I'll let you start off
if there's anything more bullshit than a political marriage, I don't know what there is. But let me give you this list, because as a Democrat, I had to pull it up because I like Eric. I'd heard the scandals, I'd read about him, but I wanted the list. It's worse than I could have imagined.
Uh-huh.
Okay, number one, sexual assault and misconduct allegation, former staffer. She told the San Francisco Chronicle and CNN that he sexually assaulted her on 2 occasions when she was 21 years old and she was too intoxicated to consent. That's a story that most of us have heard about already. Then you have an alleged victim, Lana Drews, came forward in a Beverly Hills press conference accusing Swalwell of drugging, raping, and choking her in 2018. That's not that long ago. I mean, it's a little while, but harassment claims. 3 other women alleged to CNN that Swalwell sent them unsolicited, explicit messages and nude photos. So I guess he's just sending dick pics to everybody. Current status. He's under investigation by the Department of Justice, Manhattan District Attorney's Office, and the Los Angeles Sheriff's Office, and the House Ethics Committee. I mean, he's being investigated across the country.
I think the problem for Swalwell now is like, okay, you lost your political career, and he did. Now he's got to start figuring out if he's going to go to jail or not, and he probably won't, but he's definitely getting his feet put to the fire.
He's resigned from Congress to fully face these criminal I can't speak today. Criminal allegations. So I mean, he's left the governor's race, he's left Congress, and now he's just defending himself. That's his new job.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and it was unwinnable. The governor's race, I think, at this point, the scandal, he just couldn't win. The other side, no matter who it is always looking for what's the chink in the armor. He had too many. So it was going to be real difficult.
He had other weird stuff in his life that was interesting, like the nanny scandal. Are you aware that he had brought in a hot Brazilian nanny and she had no papers? She was an illegal.
So she overstayed her welcome. Yes, I wound up looking that up. And yes, his nanny, who was very attractive, I think anyone would agree with that if you saw his nanny online. And so he definitely had her kind of overstaying her welcome. And so that wasn't that he's being investigated on that as well
Isn't
because
that kind of audacious though? Like you're running for governor, you've got the hot nanny that's already going to attract attention, and then she's illegal, and you're a sitting senator. You could probably get her paperwork like that, and you choose not to. I mean, that's just irresponsible.
yeah, I don't quite understand. Her authorization lapsed in December of 2022. So I think that's just him being a cheapskate. He didn't want to keep paying or figuring out how he was going to keep her here. I don't know. Like you said, this guy had some pull in the government, how he couldn't keep her. I mean, you can guess how many illegals are here. Let's just throw out 20 million, okay? How this guy couldn't make things cool for her, I just find that hard to believe. So, she
Have you
wasn't
heard of this
someone who
other
crossed the
thing he
border.
did that was called Find Raiser?
Say again?
He had an AI company that he was talking or that he started, and he was going to fellow lawmakers and people in Congress, and he was pitching and promoting this AI company that he had started during all this. So you're in Congress, you're running for governor, and you're in this AI company, and you're not even winking an eye at the fact that you're using your power and privilege to basically aid this AI company. So that was very interesting. And then the last thing about it is the fact that he dated a Chinese spy for a while. I mean,
Well, and
obviously that's an interesting kind of sexy, fun story, but combined with all the other shit, it's way too much.
well, you're right. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, that was his first negative publicity and controversy came because her name was Christine Fang. They called her Fang.
What a spy name, right out of
Oh, it's
007.
such a great name.
Yeah.
And wait, even better, her nickname was Fang Fang, and
Hmm.
that's because she could put her,
Yeah.
what is a snake's teeth called? Her fangs. Oh my God, how did I not remember that? It's her fucking name. Good weed, good weed. But she could literally put her fangs into you. Yeah, I think he was sleeping with her and just was having a good time. And then, whether he knew or didn't know, and you should know, it turned out that she was perhaps a Chinese spy.
What I
And
saw it, she came over from China and she was all of a sudden like deep in the university. She was leading these organizations, the whole thing. She meets him, they buddy up. I mean, it was like
well,
probably one of the smoothest Chinese operations ever run.
absolutely. People have to understand this. In Florida, not so much. So no one's going to really notice this. But in California, there's an extremely, extremely high Chinese population, and that's because it's on the west and China's over there, so it's extremely close. Matter of fact, Pat, a lot of people don't know the number one illegal, the number one group of illegals in population by nationality in the United States is not Mexicans, it's not El Salvadorians, it's not Muslims from different countries. It's the Chinese. And I personally think that the reason you don't hear about that is because a lot of these Chinese people, they don't really milk the system. They work, they start Chinese restaurants, they definitely start massage parlors,
Yeah.
and so there's not a lot of
They're,
crime.
they're a more beloved and respected part of society. Most people
They really are.
they assume that they're
But
smarter than us. They own businesses. They have a tremendous amount of
absolutely,
resources. So deporting them is not going to be easy. You know
well,
what I
it's
mean?
not easy, but
Yeah.
it's also not high on the docket.
Right.
Look, no
And
matter
it's
where
like,
you are.
if you deport Fang Fang, and then it's like, where do you get your beef and broccoli on Thursday?
Hey, look, here's the thing. When you talk about illegals in the country, or whatever, and you hear the horror stories, it never seems to be a Chinese illegal with a hit and run, a DUI, a molestation, a murder. It just doesn't. I can't tell you why. Maybe they're more docile. Maybe they're more sophisticated. Whatever the stereotype is, you just don't hear about it. But interestingly enough, they are the largest group in population. That's because they're a large population group. But that being said, going back to Fang Fang, that was his first kind of strike. And to show you how bulletproof Swalwell really was, the Republicans rallied around that story like the fucking stampede, and they wanted him not only out of Congress, but even if you weren't going to get him out of Congress, he was still on the Intelligence Committee, and they were like, at least strip him of his committee, and he never went anywhere.
Off dating an actual spy like nobody has before in history. That's how beloved he was. That's a great angle on this. Is that he really did get a huge pass for that. People are like, okay, well, he's just a lovable idiot. Could have happened to anybody. Asians are hot, But
She
that
was
was
a pretty
pretty.
lady, and so he ducked that, and that I thought was surprising. Now, a fun little story you can also look up is they actually refer to it as Fartgate, and I don't know if he was talking with Chris Cuomo at the time. I have it in my story, and I actually wrote about this, and now I'm drawing a blank, but there was a live interview where Swalwell was just having a typical political discussion, and in the background, he rips one, apparently. And it's during like a lull in the conversation, which if you're going to rip a fart, I mean, at least, do one of these or whatever. And he denies it. I think somebody said it was like a coffee cup that slid across the table. Hey, good try, man. Look, it doesn't even matter if you farted or not. If 1 million people think you farted, you farted.
Pete Hegseth just did that before a press conference. So, for me, though, let me ask you this. So I have 2 questions for you since this is your story, okay? I'm just going to read this list, okay? So you have the nanny scandal. Politician has a sexy nanny that's illegal. Okay. You have the sexual assault, sexual misconduct. You have hanging around with spies that are hot from a foreign country. And, trying to sell your own corporation inside of Congress. How is this different from what every Republican does every day?
Well, it's not necessarily Republican. It's all politicians. You know what it comes down to? First of all, nobody knows about the business shit. So he probably skated a lot on that dirty business. That's the least of your troubles.
Look at everything Trump has done. He's the sitting president. So if you're the Democrats and you have Eric Swalwell in your team, okay, are you going to cut him and send him, into legal trouble and all that other shit when Donald Trump is the sitting president? I'm just saying, Democrats are playing by old rules that nobody else is playing by anymore. The rest of the world has realized that, little scandal, sex shit, you don't have to leave office anymore for that.
No, but his were getting too many too fast. And here's the thing. The Fang Fang thing, he just slept with a chick. And maybe he shouldn't have slept with her. He's married and she's a spy, whatever. What was happening was this guy's getting sexual assault allegations. So we got to differentiate.
I agree with that, but let me ask you this.
That's where he ran into his problem, I think.
Can anyone who survives the Democratic purity test actually win the general election? To be the man that you need to be, the fighter that you need to be to win a general election against a man like Donald Trump, can anyone who passes the purity test for Democrats beat a Donald Trump? I don't think you can. And that's why the Democrats have to change their fucking test, because their test is taking out their best athletes, their best players. Guess what? When Michael Jordan is playing a basketball game, nobody cares who he sleeps with. Nobody cares where his money went. Nobody cares that he gambled all the time. Nobody cares that he played 10 rounds of golf and won $10,000 before the game. No one gives a shit, dude, because guess what? He's Michael Jordan. He can win the game. And if the Democrats got to win, they're going to have to start to look the other way on some of this little tedious bullshit. There's too many people in the Democratic Party that point the finger at their own.
Here, I'm going to make an interesting quick point. And whether you personally or anybody listening believes this or not, there is scuttlebutt and everything that I'm going to say, you can look up online and has been said about every one of the presidents I'm going to say. And so whether it's true or not, it's still somehow, some way out there. So you have Donald Trump, who we know, now we believe, full of the Epstein stuff, maybe a PDF file, maybe not, but totally tied into Epstein and may have been with kids or whatnot, and definitely an unethical piece of shit businessman. That's your most current president. Joe Biden before that, completely unethical. Hunter Biden, his son, completely unethical. Put him into Burisma in Ukraine. Kickbacks galore. His son, obviously, it has nothing to do with him. But then there was the talk about the cocaine at the White House. They said was Joe Biden's, and I'm not saying any of this is true. Research this, but let me just keep going what I'm saying, because I'm going to point out to every one of these presidents the skeleton. And then Biden was also accused of possibly molesting or showering with his daughter. It was in a diary that was found when she was like 12 years old, and they showered together, this, that, and the other. So again, I'm not saying any of this is true, but these are the things that came up. So that was Biden. And then you have Barack Obama. Rumors that he was Bathhouse Barry, that he had a gay lifestyle, that he's bisexual essentially, and all throughout his college years was dating guys as well, that he was almost like an escort sort of thing. And there's all these things that tie into him like that. So then you have that. Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, maybe not as many sexual indiscretions, but cocaine use, heavy alcoholic, heavy cocaine use, serious party boy when he was. Not a lot of sexual indiscretions. Maybe he wasn't that popular with the ladies. Bill Clinton, ladies' man, whoremonger as a governor in Arkansas, may have a son that no one knows about named Danny Williams, who looks completely identical to him. He's a half-black son that they believe he may have had with a black prostitute back in Arkansas. So, and I can keep going and going and going. And so it just seems that my point is, this just seems like it's just par for the course, right? How did Eric Swalwell lose when I just named all these presidents who have some sort of dirt attached to them, whether we believe it or not, but they all have the dirt.
Yeah, it look, dude, and you go to like the founding fathers, like held slaves and had slave relationships and this and that. So this has been going on for powerful men for a long time. I think you need to keep personal lives out of politics and you need to let the men go in and do their job that they need to do. You know, there's a lot of people that would be very good at politics, would be better than current politicians that are sitting in the wings because they don't want to go through this personal scrutiny. And if you're a news media and you're writing about politicians' families and shit like that, that's fucked up. And if you're a party that's judging people by their families or their home lives, whatever, that's fucked up too. And this whole thing where you force people out and it's like, oh, this person's done something bad. Look, we're all on the right team. We're saying you have to leave. That whole thing is just fucking stupid and antiquated and it doesn't make sense. If you have a job at DMV and you get a fucking DWI, they don't force you out of your fucking job. You know what I'm saying? It's just stupid. And
Well,
so
it is interesting because someone else that we kind of left out was John Kennedy. John F. Kennedy was a ladies' man beyond all ladies' men, and he was married, and no one seemed to give a shit that he was fucking Marilyn Monroe and whoever else he was fucking. And so it didn't seem to really matter that he was just a Lothario. He was a playboy, a Cyrano, whatever you want to call it. We didn't seem to care as much. But now it just seems that anything that can take you down, we want to take everybody down. My opinion with Swalwell is, again, it's not that he was sleeping around. It's that he was getting the sexual assault stuff more than once. A woman claims that her drink was, I think the most recent one, that she reports that something was dropped in a drink and she just woke up to this or whatever. Serious crime to a lot of people. And that may have did him in. And maybe, just maybe, the Democrats didn't rally around him because there's a chance that maybe he's just not very likable.
well, they may also know. They may have more information for all we know. They know him, work with him.
I mean, like, here, for instance, Chuck Schumer, like him or hate him, you don't see him getting thrown under the bus too much. I don't know if he lives a squeaky clean lifestyle, but there's a whole bunch of people that are.
Well, he was in the Epstein files.
Say again?
He's in the Epstein files.
Oh, is he really?
Yeah, I think Chuck Schumer's in the Epstein files.
Another JOO, man. Another JOO.
Okay, so here's an angle that I want to tell you about, though, because I don't know if you know about this. I was looking this up. So are you familiar with Stephen Klubeck? Stephen Klubeck is the billionaire.
Yes, that was the billionaire guy. Okay, go ahead.
Swalwell's been living with. So this is what bothers me, folks, and this should bother every American, okay? Our politicians are owned by the billionaire class. And what I mean is every top politician has a billionaire that's funding them. And the billionaire is funding them so that they can get their things through, the things that help their corporations, their businesses, their personal views on religion, life, or whatever. And I think that should be very troublesome for people. You think a guy like Eric Swalwell, he's a top politician, a top name in the US, and he's living in a billionaire's mansion, folks. He has left his wife. He is a living puppet inside of a billionaire's mansion. When they go to dinner at night, Eric Swalwell's not at the head of the table, folks. He is at the side of the table taking notes, listening to what this billionaire has to say, and just saying, yes, sir, I'll do that for you. I'll get that done. I can't wait till I'm elected. And this should really bother people. These billionaires keep taking politicians under their wings and then basically, buying them houses, buying their mother's houses, doing whatever they can to take care of these guys. And I just think that having these puppet politicians to the billionaire class is just atrocious. If you want to be in Congress, be your own fucking man. Get a goddamn house. You have a $1.2 million house, Eric Swalwell, in Washington, D.C. Get your ass over there and live in it. You don't need to be in the $10 billion mansion with the billionaire. It's obscene.
It seems like that this is the goal, though. What you just said was, in a sense, why we live in what's considered, I think, is a fascist society, that the corporations run everything. The heads of the corporations run everything. It is their money. They are the puppet masters. This is a guy that nobody's ever heard of. You're right. Stephen Klubeck. Ask 100 people if they heard of him. 99 have never heard of him.
Do you know how he made his money?
No.
Timeshares. So you want a guy that made $1 billion and fucking ripping people off with timeshares? That's who you want controlling your fucking politicians? And listen to this Klubeck dude. So this is a character, okay? So Swalwell's living in the mansion, everything's going well. These things start coming out about Swalwell. So now the billionaire's pissed off about his investment in Swalwell. He feels scammed. He feels like he has an ex-governor living at his house. Now all of a sudden he's just got a sex offender living at his house, right? So he told reporters that he confronted Swalwell after being disgusted by the emerging sexual assault allegations, and then he gave him the boot. The blunt interview with Fox 11 Los Angeles, Klobuchar stated, "You busted the trust, get out of here," even going so far to change his political affiliation from Democrat to Libertarian Republican.
Yeah, he's very upset with the Democratic Party. I guess he feels very butthurt over it. Yeah, listen, I mean, this is about having power. He wanted somebody that was going to be governor of California, that he had under his finger, under his thumb, at his beck and call, and perhaps a president one day. He made an investment in a guy that he blew a lot of money on, and I could see why he would be mad about it. He was the kingmaker for this guy, and he blew it. He spent a lot of money on him, I'm sure, and whatever friendship they had and whatever, and he probably feels deceived. So
Yeah.
I get where he's coming from. At the end of the day, we won't hear much from Swalwell anymore. I don't know what he'll probably wind up, in some sort of public speaking circuit or whatever, where he can make money, or he'll be quietly on the board of some sort of. He still will have some sort of power, I think. So I mean, he'll still
He
be
can
an
still
asset.
lobby or run or do something else if he gets past this
Yeah,
stuff.
it'll
But he
be in
has
the
to stay out,
business private
he's got to
sector.
stay out of jail first. The other thing too, which is fascinating about the billionaire, is that billionaire is judging him for all this stuff. Billionaire got divorced from his wife, who was a model for like 10 years, had kids, started dating an OnlyFans model, and not just your everyday OnlyFans model. Like your absolutely like a girl who's built for sex. She's got the big fake boobs. She's wearing like the completely sexy outfits, not like a little bit sexy, like deep into the sexy side. So he's dating a full out OnlyFans model. She's shooting OnlyFans content from his private jet, from his mansion, from all this stuff. They end up having a falling out, right? So the billionaire gets so mad at the falling out that he gets his legal team together. He sues her, says that she was lying to him about being an OnlyFans model. Like, you look at the girl, you can tell she's got an OnlyFans, right? He says she lied to her, and he ends up getting $1 million in gifts and cash and all this stuff back from her, saying that she lied and that she shot all this content behind his back and like abused his trust. So this is just another thing with these billionaires too. They can also, if you break up with them, they sue you and they get all their money back in a breakup, and they act like this. Then he also, in the Eric Swalwell breakup, now he's threatening to sue Swalwell to get all his political money back from Swalwell. So I mean, the billionaire class, dude, not only are they above reproach themselves, not only do they judge people for things that they do themselves, if they give you money and it doesn't go the way they want, they're not even participating in democracy. They get their money back. So their money is like guaranteed, by the United States
It's
system.
got to bounce their way. I think that at Klubeck, from the last name, he may be a JOO. So it only makes perfect sense. He's going to have some really good lawyers for this, He's definitely going to have, Greenberg, Siegfried, and Rosenstein in his corner.
And let me give you another piece of this too. So he basically said, he famously went to Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, and he said, "I will cut your money off if you continue to use the term billionaire in a negative way."
Huh.
So he went. So that's Swalwell's as big as it gets. Most people would think. Who's bigger than Swalwell? Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. One leads the House,
Absolutely.
one leads the Senate. This billionaire is so powerful, he can control what the leader of the House and the leader of the Senate say day to day by turning on and off their money. So he's got the future governor of California, according to him, sitting in his fucking mansion under lock and key, and then he's got complete control of the head of the Senate and the head of the House. This is one billionaire, and not even the most famous billionaire, not even the richest billionaire, just a random timeshare billionaire.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
It is nuts. Folks, whether you're for Swalwell, against Swalwell, like him or hate him, he's done for. He's cooked. We're not going to probably hear from him for a little while. There's other politicians to talk about. We're going to get around to talking about those politicians as well. There's always going to be
sends one dick pic and they're fucking obsolete. Donald Trump rapes the whole world, and he's
get off of
rewarded
Snapchat, buddy. What are you doing?
Yeah.
But yeah, at the end of the day, it's adios muchacho for him. Someone else will step in. We'll see who it is. But there's plenty more to talk about. We're gonna do it. I don't know if we're gonna necessarily do it now, but we're gonna go over some Trump and some of his madness. And speaking of a billionaire class that puppeteers you, I'll leave it on this note because we could talk about this as well. Donald Trump is considering bailing out the UAE for everything that's happened in this Iran war, because his family has so much money tied into the Emirates and Dubai, all of his kids, including himself, that he has so much money tied into them that he may actually use our tax dollars to bail out another country who's basically come to him and asked for this. So you want to talk about billionaires running things? How about multi-billionaire trillionaires, maybe even, that have the president kind of buy the old
No-brainer, dude. Are you going to pay to fix all that damage? They hit the Burj Khalifa. They hit big buildings, apartment buildings, billions and billions of dollars in damage. So do you want to pay 100 billion, 200 billion, $1 trillion and fix all your infrastructure? Or do you just want to give $2 billion to Jared Kushner and then he's going to go tell his dummy of a fucking father-in-law to pay for all the damage on the taxpayer's dime? Where's Trump getting all the money? Because he gave his son he gave Don Jr. $750 million. Barron's got like $40 million. Trump's got billions and billions piling up now. Jared Kushner has billions and billions piling up. How much more money can go to these fucking people, and how much more money can the taxpayers absorb? At what point is the bank account on zero? You know what I'm saying? I don't know, but they find money. They find money every day, new money to get. It's wild.
I don't know how we're paying for this Iran war. I don't know how we're paying for anything, actually. If you look at the national debt and you really go, you don't have to be an economist to know all the money we're paying on that debt is all on interest. It never is coming down. I've always said it's
$1 trillion a year on interest, just the same as our defense budget. So if we're already paying $1 trillion on interest and Trump took all this money, how much are we going to owe after this? That's what I want to know. I don't think anybody knows. I think Trump's going to leave office. They're going to add this all up and they're going to find out that we're fucking bankrupt. That's what I think.
You know, we'll leave you guys on this note. It doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on. This is a serious problem. And there is no president, not one, that will find our way out of this. Not only will they not find their way out of it, I don't know one president that's ever campaigned on it or even mentions it when they're trying to become president. They never talk about it because there's nothing they can say positive. There's no promise they can make. It's an America problem. We done fucked up. There's no
guys,
money.
I want to leave you guys on one thing. The OnlyFans model that was dating the billionaire that he sued, her name is Stephanie Gerzanowski. So if you guys want a fun Google, jump down that rabbit hole and Google Stephanie Gerzanowski. That'll be a fun one for you.
There you go, folks. Have a little fun with that. That's the OnlyFans model you were saying?
That's the OnlyFans model that was dating the billionaire that he sued and got $1 million in gifts back. Because when you break up, you got to file a lawsuit if you're a billionaire. Can't just
I'd like to follow up on that and see if he actually gets any of that back. Because, you could sue for it, but whether you get it or not is going to be very interesting. But he's going to have some powerful lawyers working on it.
He's like swapping the diamonds out with cubic zirconium as we speak.
I can only imagine. Folks, sfl.media, this is where you get the fun stuff. We like to bring you some great information, sometimes serious, sometimes not so serious. Check out all of our stuff. It's on YouTube. It's on IG. And we appreciate everybody that's watching. Leave a comment, follow us, and toodaloo.